Today's talk by Bernard will be in 3 sessions. So if you have any questions during his presentation, please use the chat function to enter the question you have. At the end of each section, Bernard would answer your question. During that time, you could also use the raise hand function, and then myself and other volunteer would work out with you when to let you present your question there. And then we'll move to the second session, question and answer after that, then the third session and the final question and answer sessions. So let's welcome Dr. Shung, my old friend, to present his advice and experience in the career as an engineer and how to further develop that. Bernard, the stage is yours.
Thank you. So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, no problem.
Okay. Thank you very much, Larry and Brian, and also thanks to CIE to give me this chance to give this presentation. It's been a while, so I've been involved with CIE around 2005 to 2009, and it's been like more than 10 years. It's almost like homecoming for me to come back and give this presentation. Today's topic is corporate ladders for engineers, and as a mentioned, that they are actually a follow-up talk next month, and then at the end of this talk, maybe I will also highlight what will be talked about in the next talk. So for today, basically, I will talk about 3 topics. First, why should I aspire to manage your job? So we talk about climbing the corporate ladder. The first question for many young engineers is that whether going for a manager job will compromise or sacrifice the technical career. This is something that when I was young, I also wondered. And also when I was a senior manager, I would like to promote someone. He said, I don't want to do it. Management will hurt my technical career. So this is the first question, whether you want to climb or not. Second, if you decided you want to climb the corporate ladder, how can I become one? In other words, when senior management looking for a manager to promote, what are the criteria? What are the characteristics they are looking for? These are the second question I'd like to answer. The third question, congratulations, you are a manager now, but how can you become a good manager? So for today, we'll talk mostly on the manager or director level. Now, for management beyond director level, many of the ideas or suggestions we presented today still work, but in addition, you may need to know some more business sense. This is the topic of the next presentation. So in the next presentation, we'll talk about business sense for engineers. So those are, so in other words, for climbing the corporate ladder, so there are still tools that are not covered in today's presentation. Okay, so this sounds all important topics, but how come these are not discussed elsewhere? Especially, let me see if I can make my mouse work. Sometimes helps. Okay, I have a mouse now. Okay, so if these are so important topics, and why wouldn't my manager explain this to me? Again, good question, right? My thinking is that you first need to think about them yourselves. Otherwise, you are not ready to comprehend what I'm about to tell you, or what even if your manager are going to tell you some of these. The other thing is that many managers, I cannot talk to John only about this topic because it's unfair. But if I summon everybody in my group and talk about these topics, I may create more trouble for myself because everybody will now come to me and say, I want to become a manager. How can I do that? And so on and so forth. So this is actually very, very odd. These are so important to your career, but they're not talked about. In fact, I think these topics should be talked about in your orientation the first day, but nobody does that. Okay. Now, I also want to do a disclaimer. What I'm going to talk, and then my style, it will sound like these are facts, but this is just my style. I'm presenting this as if these are facts because I truly believe in them. However, these are by no means facts. These are my experience, my perspectives. So please don't consider them as facts. And then why do I want to talk about that? Because these should provoke your thinking or challenge your thinking. If at the end of today's presentation, everything you agree with me, that's actually bad news, meaning that you don't gain or earn anything from today's talk. Hopefully there's one or two things that you see differently, or what I tell you that you did not think about, or you think it differently, then that's great, because that will provoke or challenge you, and then you'll say, hey, why does Bernard say this way? And if you think about it and you find your own way moving forward, that's the goal, okay? So I'm not telling you anything that's fact. I'm telling you my perspective, and hopefully that will challenge you. And if you think it differently, and then you say, hey, and you go back and find your own way. Now, today's, as I mentioned, there are 3 topics. So it's like 3 modules. At the end of each module, maybe we'll come back and then ask if there are questions about that module. But also at the end, you're welcome to ask further questions. Good, so let's start. So first question, why should I aspire for a manager position? And also, is manager job and technical career mutually exclusive? Okay, so let me draw a very, you can see that I'm not very good drawer of diagrams. So the thing I want to convey is that in your career path, there's something called digital divide. Have you not heard about the term digital divide? Go Google it. So basically what is saying is that today, those people who are handling the grocery delivery, even though they did a good job, they will not end up in a engineering job. In other words, there's a divide. There's a certain path, there's another career path. There's a divide in between them, and then basically is how proficient you know that you are cope with the digital. For today's presentation, unfortunately, I'm only focusing on the right-hand side. In other words, even though I have great respect for a lot of people who do the essential job, but then I have no experience, and unfortunately today's situation, they just cannot jump over just by sheer. The question I like to address today is that even you or us work so hard, overcome the digital divide. Again, congratulations. But the question is why you find the path very flat. In other words, you find you are in LinkedIn, you look around, you have so many people around you, and there's no clear way for you to excel. That's what I meant by career being very flat. Now, there's a reason for it. The reason is that nowadays, differentiation by diploma is no more. There was a very famous prime minister called Sun Yat-sen in Taiwan. If you look at his biography, he is Taidian 总经理 or the president of Thai Power at the age of 34. Why? Because he's the only person who has electrical engineering bachelor degree at that time. So at that time, you differentiate yourself by a diploma. But nowadays, even you have a master degree or PhD degree, sometimes they don't differentiate. Now, certain disciplines, for example, if you are in Juilliard, musical academy, yeah, that's very differentiable. But those career, just like Michael Jordan, is very risky, right? You like to be the best NBA player, but one in probably a billion people can make it, right? So the point is that even digital divide will screen out a lot of people, but then still there are a lot of people talented, very talented as you, that you cannot differentiate just by diploma. And the other thing that you also cannot differentiate by experiences. So Larry and I both graduated from UC Berkeley. When we graduated in the 80s, one of the best jobs is at AT&T Bell Labs, where got hired. You do research, and then sometimes the company buy you an MBE a machine, and there are only like a handful of people in the world who know those very advanced machine and technology and processes. And once you work on that machine for 10 years, your job is so secure because nobody else knows that. Even your company, you cannot hire people to replace you. But those jobs are not any longer. Nowadays, customer requirements trying to market are so critical. So, and everywhere you find resource shortage. And people saying that any project, if it are longer than 18 months, is doomed to fail because the situation has changed. Therefore, the job assignment is very shallow and near and short term. And you cannot establish, you did this project for 6 months, very hardworking, but after the 6 months, you're not any better or any better equipped with knowledge or know-how more than 6 months ago. And then you do another assignment, another 6 months, and so on and so forth. So after 4 or 5 years, you don't feel that you establish yourself. That's the reality of engineering job today. Now, many engineers turn to, I use the word turn to manager job because, and then this is what I learned from talking to many of them, because they have this fear that they say, well, eventually, or after a few years, since my job cannot accumulate knowledge or maybe more differentiable, and after a few years, I'm not any better off than people who just graduate or just overcome the digital divide. And therefore, they got scared. They say, maybe I should go for manager this job. And in fact, they go to their manager. Hey, how can I be a manager job? The unspoken thing is that I need a manager that my job is secure. Personally, I think this is a wrong motivation because this kind of a career dilemma or this kind of strategy of seeking a manager job as a refuge is not a successful strategy. We cannot, go tell your manager, hey, I have contributed to this company for 6, 7 years, and therefore now my job is at a risk. Therefore, you need to give me a manager job. So this is to the benefit of the individual, not to the benefit of the company. So this kind of conversation is challenging. So personally, I think fundamentally, the issue was the incorrect view toward the manager job, thinking that it is a compromise of technical growth when you feel technically secure, you think that you look down upon on a manager job. You say, hey, this is a compromise of my technical career. I want to enjoy my technical growth. And only when you are not so comfortable about technical growth, then you want to embrace an engineering manager job. Again, I want to stress this is the wrong strategy. And a lot of people fall for this strategy, and that caused them trouble. Now, alternatively, in the first module, the most important message I want to convey is below. If I can convince you that a manager job actually is not a compromise for technical growth, it helps your technical growth. If you can believe in that, then you should work harder on pursuing it. So that is a fundamental switch in attitude. You want to say, I want to become a manager because in order for me to have technical growth, manager job is the path. Remember that. Okay, now let me prove that to you. Now, the way, it's not a proof, it's again a perspective. So I use two different roles in mystery novels, right? There's a detective, there's also forensic doctor, right? So first of all, a forensic doctor, they have very, very strong technical skill. For example, you want to do DNA test. A detective himself or herself cannot test. They need to send the sample to a forensic doctor, and it does the DNA test and say, oh, this blood belongs to her or him and whatnot. And then this could be a very, very essential clue. This is very technical and then very unique skill, very professional or very respectable. Right? However, my perspective is it is a detective who solved the case based on all the evidences put in together. Now, the detective can accumulate or improve or excel on their experience because their cases help them, right? Because you solve these cases, next day you solve the other cases. Now, both of them may send some DNA sample for the forensic doctor to test, but forensic doctor have no idea what the cases are behind them. But then the detective can use different cases to help the experience accumulating. Also, for one single case, the way you solve it, that's also some experience that to be gained. So I want to contrast, you probably got a hint. A manager is more like a detective, and a pure technical person is more like a forensic doctor. So nowadays, I believe the detective has more visibility to see new cases and therefore accumulate the technical knowledge. So the most important technical knowledge for a manager is, in my opinion, problem solving with help from others. Now, two important techniques or methodology. One is planning. I will keep coming back to this planning and judgment. Planning and judgment is to find out who can help on this particular task more effectively. And judgment is how to deduce or summarize from different inputs. These are the most important set of a manager. The other thing I like to highlight, and also very, very important, especially thinking about climbing the corporate ladder, is this type of skills are scalable, meaning that when you are a lower rank manager, you solve smaller cases. When you are VP, you solve bigger cases. When you do plan, you assign tasks for other people to help and tasks to other group to help. It is a scalable skill. also is very transferable, more transferable than any technical skill. When you go to a new job, sometimes your technical skill are not transferable. You work on a machine. When you go to a new job and then they don't have that machine, you have to learn new machine. However, this type of planning, judgment, problem solving, detective work is very, very transferable. So how about dual track? You must dual track, and then many people say, "Are you manager is one track, technical is the other." Personally, I think dual track is more and more a fallacy. I wouldn't say it's a lie, or at least it's a fallacy. It's not actually as balanced, as dual as it can be. But let's not say bad words about that. So let's dissect the manager job and non-manager job. So as I mentioned, I think a manager job obviously involves people management. You need to lead people, and also very importantly, you need to plan and judge, right? You need to plan for new tasks and assign them, and also making sure that anything happens, you know how to find a way out. Now, I consider if you are a successful non-manager, you are not a manager, but you are if you are not a manager, your job must involve some kind of delivery. In other words, your manager assigns something to you, you need to deliver. However, if you are a successful non-manager, then you also try to get involved in the plan and judge part, even though you are not going to be involved in the people management. Now, if you are not successful non-manager, if you compare these two roles, you see that the not so successful non-manager only does the delivery, right? Only deliver to the task assigned. The other thing is that sometimes you heard the term project manager. Project manager are not engineering manager because they don't involve in people management, right? They've been set up so that deliver at a bigger scale. So they will also help to manage those people temporarily. They don't manage people for the whole year, but then within that particular project, they help manage those people and help them to deliver. But more oftentimes, the project manager was not involved in the plan and judge stage. It's hard to say, but then not necessarily. So therefore, that if you want to have a successful dual track career, is the one that involves planning and judgment. Because once you do that, you have a one thin line between you and becoming a manager, which is whether you want to do people management or not. So if you say, I just don't want to do people management, I've been happy here doing my technical work, but very importantly, you need to involve in plan and judge. Now, and also once you involve planning and judgment, it's actually very easy for you to go to a people management, because people management is not just, say how are you, greet people and whatnot. People need to look up to you. Why will people look up to you? Because they see your technical ability, your plan and judge ability. These are very essential qualities, right? So because this is how you can convince people. I say, hey, I do the planning and judgment and this and that, and then that's why we should go this way, right? So and once you have this skill sets, then it's very easy to move into people management. Okay, so let me summarize my first module. Why should I aspire for a manager job? First of all, a manager job does not imply a compromise on technical whatsoever. Quite the contrary, nowadays, a manager job allows us to have technical growth with experience and visibility beyond a non-manager job. And again, one more time, I look to highlight the most important skill set of a manager job is planning and judgment. Even if you are a non-manager now, you should seek to help your manager in planning and judgment, right? Because when it's not like that the job will be bestowed to you automatically. You need to find way to help, right? For example, you see that your manager is doing a planning or start the planning for a new project. See what you can help, right? So because those are very valuable, most important, highly leveraged tasks. If you are only or solely, focus on delivery of tasks assigned, as many of us do, then our value is, that's just a fact. All right, so I think I can stop here for a little bit, and if there are questions, then I can entertain. Meaning that if you think what I said about why you want to aspire a manager job totally offensive, please please ask questions.
Hello, everyone. This is Larry, the moderator. I'd like to know how many in the audience are already managers. Can you, using the reactions and the raise hand, to share with us? Maybe Bernard, you can temporarily stop the sharing of the screen.
Okay. Okay, let me see how I. Oh, okay, stop share. Okay, I cannot point to stop share.
All right, we have quite a few. Okay, second question. How many of you are interested in becoming a manager? Can you raise your hand? All right, quite a few more.
Actually, I'm not very still 80% of people don't want to be a manager.
Maybe I should ask the question the other way. Can those interested in staying in the technical ladder only without managerial role raise your hand? All right. I saw fewer. So probably majority are considering whether the managerial ladder is appropriate. And I think in this case, Bernard, your sharing of your experience and your advice may be most influential to majority of the audience. All right. Should we move on to the next section of your talk, Bernard?
Okay. Let's try. Okay. Now, I don't know whether I'm convinced you anyway. So if you want to be a manager, and if you are wondering whether you are prepared or you stand out to be chosen and whatnot, again, I'm sharing you some of my perspective. The topic of this module is, how can I be a manager? Okay, what characteristics are senior managers looking for to promote one? Okay, so first of all, I'd like to say that technical superiority is the wrong answer. Okay, now, so I'm glad that today, initially I thought this is because it's a CIE, Chinese Institute of Engineering. I thought a lot of people from Chinese background. I actually saw a few people with different background. But if Either way, I think in general, the Asian cultural background induces us to believe promotion due to technical superiority, right? This is also how we got here, right? Because I mentioned a lot of us, or all of us, fought through the digital divide. It does not come naturally. You are not born an engineer. You fought hard. Many of us need to, study abroad and, and doing a lot of things. And in all that, you actually being trained to differentiate yourself technically, right? So it is very natural. It's almost like inertia, right? You keep moving this way, and once you stop, you say, hey, I need to go further, and I need to work harder in order to get to the next level. So again, I'm not saying this is a wrong answer or there's anything wrong of thinking that way. But I just want to point it out again. This is a very, very interesting thing when I observe from engineering career is that no other career you need to make this change. If you are even a medical doctor, what you're being trained for and what you want to excel is the same. Even if you are a not so famous chef and you become a very famous chef, you actually do the same. Here I'm going to tell you, you fall through the digital divide to be a good engineer, you are not going to do the same to become a VP. Technical superiority brings you there, but technical superiority alone will not bring you to VP. Now, many of people, especially Asian background, because they were, thinking about technical superiority alone, have the wrong action below, right? So I quote in parentheses because they are wrong action. So in order for me to get promoted, I need to demonstrate outstanding technical result to impress. And before I can do that, I better shut up and not expose myself because I'm fighting with other people with the technical result. Before I can show that, I better not, expose myself because I'm not ready. But my perspective is that when people making manager decision on someone, they are looking on your so-called manager potential. Are you a manager type or not? And your manager potential is often determined within 6 to 12 months. When you join the new company, within 6 to 12 months, your manager potential is determined. Now, if you are, after that determination, if you don't have the manager potential, then your technical skills are irrelevant. If you do show manager potential, then you still need to demo. It's not like you total technical flop, you will still make a manager. I'm not saying that. It's a necessary but not sufficient condition. You want to show or demonstrate your technical, your manager potential, right? Remember the whole module we talk about how would you be promoted? You need to show your manager potential. Then you say, but now what is the manager potential? So senior managers are looking for the following characteristics. First, you are popular. You are popular. Second, you are able to convince. Third, your judgment and planning ability. Now, in this module, I'm not going to talk about judgment and planning anymore because I've been talking about that a lot already. So I'll focus on popularity and able to convince. But that is 2/3 of the characteristic. You still also need to show judgment and planning. Now, first of all, why these characteristics make sense? Okay, because after all, your job is to ask other people to do something for you, while other people are more willing to do it as asked, because one of the three, or combination. First of all, the manager's charisma. Second, the manager is convincing. Third, one of the three reasons will coerce people asked to do something for the manager. Think about this. If I'm a senior manager, I have A and B, or John and Alice to consider promotion. John, if I give him the manager job, the only thing he can get things done is because of the manager authority I gave him. While Alice, she's charismatic and she's very convincing. And when I promote her as a manager, she also has the authority. Which one should I promote? So in other words, if someone is popular and convincing, he or she have more tools. The authority you are given is equal, right? So therefore, you want to find someone who has more than the authority to get things done. The authority is not his own or her own. You give it to them. So that's why the other aspects are so-called manager potential. That is why. Now, now here comes the $1 million question. How to be popular? This is very important because I need to put it in parentheses in a workplace. You think back, there are people, your classmates, who are very popular in college. He or she may not be popular at workplace. In other words, the two ways are not the same. Again, you so far maybe follow my talking style. It sounds like I know all the tricks. I don't. And also it sounds like I'm very popular. I'm not. Okay, so but then I'm saying important topics. So I wanted to throw something for you to think about. Okay, that's the purpose. Again, I'm not God. I'm not all the truths or all the facts. Okay, how to be popular in a workplace? My perspective is a quiet guy or a nice guy is not going to work in the long run. Then you say, but no, I'm just quiet. This is my personality. I'm introvert, right? But I'm telling you, a quiet guy or a nice guy, or Albert's nice. He is prioritize being nice. He cannot offend. These type of personality will not work in the long run. It sounds like this will not offend people. You will be popular, but in the long run, in a workplace, it's not going to work. You have to find, or you will have to offend people. If a person, I give you an example. If a never offend people, in the last, say, 2 years, suddenly he offend one guy, people will be shocked. Oh, what happened to Albert? He's finding fault with blah, blah, blah. So you cannot start from the point, I want to be a nice guy, because it does not go a long way. Okay, so so a very important thing is to open ourselves so that others can know and understand us. These are a lot of things, a lot of times, especially Chinese engineers in US fail. In other words, they are too afraid of other people knowing he or she is not perfect. Nobody is perfect. So, and we don't do small talk very well. But let me tell you, the reason to do small talks is so that you know others and also for others to know you. Because it's just human nature. people can only trust a guy if he or she knows about the person, even though he knows the deficiency or the not so good part of the person. Still, he said, I know this person, therefore I can trust him. Okay. The other thing, I want to make this a Bernard phrase. I taught this class in my church several times. And so this is a Bernard phrase. I called it the paranoid but kind. This is invented by me, okay? Paranoid but kind. Remember that. Because as I mentioned, you cannot be a nice guy because nice guy does not go along. And you must have heard in the Silicon Valley, only the paranoids survive, right? So paranoid is not a great style, but it's a celebrated style. So if you are paranoia, at least you can hide behind paranoid vibe. Right? You have a reason to be paranoid. People cannot attack. Oh, why are you paranoid? Only paranoid. In terms of quality, being paranoid, nobody can challenge that position. However, if you're being paranoid and just for being paranoid sake, you will fail. You need to be paranoid kind. When people send something to you, say, hey, suppose you are checking on your colleague's work. They send something to you. They say, no, this does not work. They fix it, come back again, still does not work. Come back the third time. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You need to be paranoid, but you don't need to pick on this guy. You don't need to laugh and say, how come you did the third time, still doesn't work? That's not unkind. You need to be kind. You need to go out and see if you can help him to be successful. But on the other hand, you have no compromise on the quality. You need to be paranoid, period. But you can be paranoid but kind. You need to learn and then think about these two actually do not conflict. Paranoid but kind. So you need to convey a very clear message or image. It doesn't sound that this is a very popular style, but I tell you this works, okay? You convey a very clear message of tough professionally while soft personally. So as I mentioned, you need to be paranoid about work quality. Whenever necessary, fought ferociously in a meeting about project direction. If you have an opinion, say it. If you believe in that opinion, say it. Don't be afraid of offending other people because you say that for the good of the company. But on the other hand, you need to be very easygoing. You cannot say, "Oh, I fought with you, in a meeting," and then when I go out of the meeting room, I don't make eye contact with you. That's bad. You need to be easygoing with everyone and show positive attitude. A lot of time, remember this, don't say bad things privately. A lot of people fail because they say nothing publicly and they say only bad things privately. That's a very, very bad style. Say only positive things, publicly or privately. More importantly, privately. And in a lot of cases, speak of your mind. Don't hide it so that people don't understand you. But then once you speak of your mind, be willing to be corrected. Okay? A lot of time, they say, who is humble? In fact, it's those people say a lot more is humble. When you look at people who say nothing, they are not humble because they are afraid of being corrected. That's the reason they don't say anything. When you say a lot more and then showing the style that you are ready to be corrected and willing to take advice, these people are more humble. All right, so this is a lot of my perspective. The next question, how to be convincing? You need to take your position. Okay, let me give you an example. Larry told me that I need to give examples. Okay, let me give you one example. I remember at one point, I have one guy in my group. And then at the point, we like to recruit more people. And this guy went to a conference and met a guy. And he came back and said, hey, Bernard, I met a guy. And I managed to get his resume. I'm going to forward it to you. So I asked him, I said, John, what do you think about the guy? He said, no, I don't know. It's for you to decide. Also, I said, John, you spend half an hour talk to him, and then you are not going to tell me what you think. So this is not taking his position, right? So you are not helping your manager, or so that's an example. So you need to take your position, right? Now, do you need to take position all the time? No, but you need to be prepared to take a position when your position being asked and you do have a position, you need to take it. Okay, now, why wouldn't we take a position, right? First of all, thinking is not our responsibility, right? Just as I said earlier, this guy thought, John thought that his responsibility of sending me more resume, right? Also, you may find your colleague or your boss, oh, I want to research on this topic. And he sent 5 Google links to his manager. Okay, you want me to search for this topic? These are 5 Google links. Who is the manager? He sounds like this subordinate is the manager. He's asking his manager to study these and report to him. This is not taking your position. You are not adding value, right? So your responsibility is not just talking about fact. It is almost like a forensic doctor, right? I tell you the fact, this blood belongs to her. Now, whether or not she is the murderer, no, I'm not taking position because this is not my job. This is a very dangerous role to be in. You need to learn to take your position. First of all, don't assume taking position is not your responsibility. Second, oftentimes when you are in a meeting, you know other people's position very well. Alfred has that position. Marvin had another position. I have a position, but if I say it, I will offend Marvin, so I don't say it. Right? So, but if you are afraid of offending people and not take your position, you are telling everybody you are not a manager type. Because a manager will eventually have to take a position. If you don't take position now, why would you take a position when you become a manager? Thirdly, when the manager asks for the position, and at the end, he will make a decision. What if I take a wrong position? Again, don't be afraid. Because let's just say they are just 2 positions, right? You say, we should do this, and then there's we should do the other way. And you take a position to go A way, and the manager chose B way. You are not going to be penalized. The reason or the position you should take is that you said, oh, I'm a team player, right? Now the decision has made to go the B way. I'm going to be behind the 100%. So don't be afraid. Take a wrong position before the decision is made is totally fine. More than that, sometimes you will benefit from the fact that later on, it may turn out A was correct, but nobody knows. When you're not saying, "Hey, I was correct," and then you guys are all wrong. You're not going to say that, but people remember that. Hey, remember John take a A position, but we didn't listen to him, and you got rewarded. It's not like you got the reward, bonus reward, but then you got the brownie point. Okay, so remember, if you want to learn to be convincing, you need to learn to take your position. The other thing is very important, very important, even though it's obvious for many, is that why is always more important than how. Again, communicate why before how. I don't know if you follow my presentation. I actually always talk about why. And next I talk about how. Again, for engineer, this is a little bit a challenge to learn because remember I tell you, you are till here, you need to change in order to get to the next step. Only our discipline have that funny, change, because we fought hard till here by accumulating a lot of how. How is our bread and butter? How is how we get our job today? But why is more important? Think about it in a company, if they want to hire consultant, what do they hire for? They hire people to help them on how. They have a particular how they don't know how to do, they hire a consultant. Very seldomly, they hire a consultant to tell them why. The CEO is supposed to tell them why. The senior manager is supposed to tell them why. Once they figure out why, how is engineering job, then I'm an engineer. But you need to think about how in order to become a manager. The other thing that's more tactical is that, but this is actually very important because without that, your day in and day out job will not, you don't stand out above your colleagues. So there are two things that's very important. Once you master, you understand, you take a position, you understand, you need to communicate why before how. You still need to excel, or at least familiarize with meeting tactics or email etiquette, sorry. So for meeting, especially in US, how to handle interrupts is very important, or how to know when to interrupt others. That's also very important. I think in the interest of time, let me stop here. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how to write email when the CC list is long, okay? Because this is very, very common. Let me just say a few words for thought about that. So we often reply email and when the CC list is long. And we know that, in fact, out of the entire list, there's probably one or two people who we are talking to. But then the CC list is very, very long. That situation happens very often. But what's the perspective? The perspective is that, since those people are in a CC list, they are not watching or they are not reading my email. Wrong. They are reading your email. So how do we do it? So you should use something called a positional statement. Okay, let's just say Margaret sends you an email, CC a lot of people, saying that, hey, John, from your last code base, I found some issues, blah, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, when you reply to Margaret, you say, Margaret, these are non-issues. And you start talking about 1, why this non-issue, 2, why this non-issue, 3, why this non-issue. Remember your first sentence, Margaret, these are non-issues. This is called positional statement. People in the CC list, everybody is watching this positional statement. Once they watch this positional statement, they will ignore. But they will remember this positional statement. So you cannot just say garbage. You also should not jump to 1, why it's not, because they have to read a lot more to find your positional statement. You have to have a positional statement to satisfy all the CC list people. And you also need to have a detailed answer for the main person you are communicating with. Both are important. However, positional statements are very important. Don't get me wrong. I just say, you say, oh, these are non-issue, blah, blah, blah. And Margaret come back, John, you are wrong. And then you send an email, oh, I'm sorry, Margaret, these are issues. Then you are totally get the bad grades, okay? So when you are in doubt, what do? You call Margaret. You don't email Margaret, okay? So all the email should be considered meeting. In the meeting, you talk about a lot of things back and forth. They are all transitional. They are not final. Finally, you have the email, your meeting minutes, they are the conclusion. But don't use email as your back and forth. When you are not sure, call her. Call the main person. And in your email, you can say, oh, Margaret, based on our conversation, these are non-issue. This is totally fine. Because you are doing all the CC list people service. You are giving them most accurate summary position. Okay, so enough said. All right, so let me summarize. Don't just focus on technical accomplishment and thinking technical superiority will lead you to manager position. Important aspect of is popularity and being able to convince, and also judgment and planning ability. Here, I have another very subtle but then very important point, especially for young or younger engineers. That is the difference between passion and sophistication. When I remember my first job at IBM, okay, my manager is a very good one, right? And I was curious, oftentimes ask him about this and that. And sometimes he say to me, Bernard, you don't want to know this. In other words, he felt that I was too pure. He doesn't want to use those managerial, I don't know, maybe dirty is the wrong word, but then just sophisticated stuff to contaminate. I cannot spell contaminate me. Okay, so so what I'm saying, when you are young, you can be very passionate. This is not, but it's very common. A lot of time, people feel passionate people are not sophisticated enough. So they have worry if you are very passionate, maybe you are not sophisticated enough for the managerial world. So this is very subtle. However, you are passionate, then you are likable. If you are just completely sophisticated, have no passion, maybe you are closer to a manager job, but then you are not a likable person. So it's very subtle. So here my recommendation is to carry both passion and sophistication as much as you can, at least before you become a manager. Once you become a manager, I'm sorry, you get into the dark side. You probably need to focus more on the sophistication. However, when you climb your corporate ladder and CEO, you need to show your passion again. Okay, so anyway, so this is again very, very subtle point. Sorry, this module I took longer. Questions, please. You can raise your hand or you use other ways if you have questions. Okay, so then let me go to the next module. Hope I will not go over my time. Okay, the next module is how can I be a good manager? Okay, so yeah, I've been promoted now, and then my question is how can I be a good manager? Okay, what is a engineering manager job anyway? Okay, so there are many management books, and they talk about good managers, but you find them hard to apply. You say those make sense, but then it's not that easy to skill set on your manager job. The other thing is that if you're a non-manager, you know that the manager knows a lot about benefits, vacation rules, or sexual harassment guidelines, and all those important political correct policies. But let me tell you, if you're a manager, don't overdoing it. Spending your energy on those things, if you among all the managers, you know the best, it does not pay. You need to know adequate, right? You cannot, not know those important policies, but then don't overdo it. Okay, so in my perspective, the following several areas are how I recommend you to focus on or help to become a better or good manager. First of all, coaching. What I'm doing today is doing coaching, right? So if some of these things you learned or again, not learned directly, you consume and come up with your own knowledge. And these are very important things that you can coach your subordinates. And let me tell you, this is a fact, that most subordinates appreciate these type of personal experience more than technical know-how. You find, technically his architecture is wrong, his coding style is not good. That's very appreciated. But if you pull him aside and tell him that you need to communicate why before how, and help him to understand why that's important, and he will benefit for the whole lifetime, and he will appreciate that much more. But then that's enough said. I don't have any slide more about this point. The other three, I have one slide for each. One is decision making. What is a good decision making practice or strategy? The other is communication. Now you're a manager. You are communicating kind of in between top management and your subordinate. What's the good practice there? And lastly, invest wisely in your boss. How do you manage up? Those are the three topics I want to talk a little bit about. First of all, decision making. Okay, my ideal manager, again, you can probably get a hint that I use a detective as a model of a manager, is that I think that the good manager is a logic machine. In other words, on the left-hand side is the new requirement, custom requirements, technical issues, or other execution issue, resource and whatnot, right? This could be something new, or could be the beginning of the project. Now, these box represent the thinking of this manager that is a very logical reasoning based on all these inputs. With his experience, he's going to generate the best plan moving forward. If there's a new situation, you found a new issue, then you throw in logical machine and then find the best plan forward. Let me give you more color. Okay, a good manager can be a stateless logic machine. Here, when I buy stateless, that I don't have any preconceived. In other words, I don't care what your requirement. I have already decided what to do. Right? It's not that. Stateless meaning that for this logic machine take in this inputs. They don't have any statement. The state is my experience. Okay, it's like my methodology. It's like how I go about solving these input, but I don't have a preconceived. Okay, that's and think about if you can be stateless, your skill set can be transferable. Because when you go to a new company, obviously you are stateless, right? However, a stateless does not mean he's forgetful. In other words, when people tell you some input, you need to be stateful, right? So let's just say John tell you something, you say, okay, based on John's input, you make a decision, right? Next time, John said, no. I said wrong, and I said this. And he needs to be held accountable because he told you something, and the logic machine run that way, and he cannot say, oh, I says wrong. I saw you. Obviously, the result will be different. So everybody needs to be accountable for the input. Okay, stateless about no preconceived idea versus, I hold everybody accountable for the input are totally consistent. The other thing is very important is transparent. You find a lot of managers making decisions and people don't understand because he or she is not sharing all the inputs. The best logic machine is I lead people by letting everybody see the same input as me, and also I expose my logic reasoning. Because once you know the input, knows my logic reasoning, you know my output. I expose everything, input and my reasoning. And this is the output. Why? Because I share with you all the input and I expose my reasoning with you. If you do not agree with my reasoning, we can debate. In other words, my reasoning is wrong, we can debate. If you agree with my reasoning, I don't need to convince you because you see the same input. You also agree with my reasoning. And therefore, this is the outcome. Okay, so a transparent manager had that advantage because it's easy to convince people. Again, I count point. This is a scalable and transferable because this box can be bigger and the input can be more. It's all the same logic. Now I switch to another topic, manager communication. Now, as I probably mentioned a little bit earlier, I taught about this topic in the church, right? So in fact, in my original slide, I had a lot more Bible verse or examples. Here, I just retain one. Moses in Exodus, I mean, this is just just thinking about as a story or an example. He is between the God and the Israel people, right? Now, when he talked to God and when he talked to Israel people, they actually talk about two different things, very different things, but consistent. Okay, at the time, God is, angry with Israel people. So when Moses in between, when he talked to God, he said, no, this Israel people, they are, you cannot do things bad to him because they are your people and this. When he turned around, talked to the Israel people, he said, you are bad. The God think you are bad. You did a lot of, remember, he is talking very different thing, but then his style is consistent. He's being the bridge, right? He's being the bridge between the two. So, and also intercession. Intercession is you go to the God and helping the Israel people to pray or to ask for favor. Likewise, you being a manager, you need to help your subordinate to get better result from your senior manager. And sometimes this separation is very important because if the God meet the Israel people directly, it will be disastrous. So you being in the middle is important in order to find good solutions. Okay, this is a very unique and pivotal role. A lot of people don't see that. A lot of people think that I'm just passing information. No, you are a very important bridge. And there's also a very important criterion line. And that is because there's a separation, right? Each time only two group are meeting. You know, you are meeting your manager or you are meeting with your subordinate. You don't, all of them don't meet together. So when you are meeting, you always want to represent the missing group. When you are meeting with your manager, you are represent your subordinate. When you are meeting with your subordinate, represent your senior manager. That's the only way to bridge the gap. Okay, one mistake some manager, in fact, some managers that I met in my cell group, I talk about, but now you told me I know I made a mistake. The mistake is this. He go to the manager and he manager saying we should do it this way. And he disagree. And he then take that and go to his subordinate saying that, you know, big boss wants to do this way. Let's do it. But in that communication, he communicate his disagreement. Right? He just say, okay, big boss want us to do this, let's just do it. And you know, I'm not enthusiastic, but then this is wrong. Because you are not represent your boss. You are represent your boss wrongfully. You need to continue having a dialogue with your manager, finding out a way to communicate this message that is satisfactory to him and also to you, meaning you say, this I can communicate because based on my technical knowledge, this is you know, good, but this is not good. This is acceptable for me to communicate this way. You need to find that communication mechanism. Then you are ready to talk to your subordinate. Another thing that I also find very, very common, especially for Chinese managers, they are fighting to be the nicer guy. so communicating good message, everybody can do. Who is going to communicating the bad message? You find from CEO to the first-line manager, nobody want to do it. Everybody say, okay, you do the bad message. But again, think about this. You do the communication. You cannot shy away and saying let the or doing your manager of exposing the bad part of him. So I'm the nicer guy. Okay, my boss is worse than me. That's not a good style. There's a lot to talk about. So let me just move on. Okay. The other thing that's very, very important, especially when you are becoming a senior manager, that you need to understand your boss's career aspiration and also invest in him or her wisely. Some of your managers are very aggressive. They want to, you know, tackle new territories. And in so doing, you want to help him plan or judge, you know, how to do that. And some of them are less aggressive, right? But at least he or she had a need to defend the territory. Okay. Now, why is this very common? You say, how come there's aggressive people in the manager? Because let me tell you, the CEO needs to be aggressive. The CEO's job is to grow. And therefore, he's looking for some of his subordinate to grow. Otherwise, the company cannot grow, right? So being aggressive is, especially at the senior manager, is the name of the game. Right? Okay, so the best chance for you to get promoted is that you are helping your boss to get promoted. But obviously, he or she get promoted for a reason. If you you know, are the key contributor, you will help. You will benefit. So this is actually a very investment relationship, almost like a land relationship. In other words, when your boss has a need, he come to you to lend your time, resource, or even good faith, or invest in him. And you need to invest because if his costs or her costs are not promising, you may invest and have no return. But why is this investment situation very common? Because your boss's boss is looking for him or her to invest. So this is a very common. Now, when you say invest, if your manager asks, hey, we have a new task, you have two answers. One is just do it. The other is you ask your manager, oh, I have these tasks at hand. Which one do you want me to drop? That's a valid answer. But the second answer is telling your boss that you are not investing in him. Why he wants you to invest? Because his boss wants him to. So all these sometimes is extra. This extra is an investment, and investment has a risk. You have to understand the risk. But if you don't take any risk, if you're, you are manager, the other manager are taking the risk, who is going to be rewarded at the end of your boss's promotion? Him or her, not you. But it's a fair game, right? Because you decide whether you want to invest or not. But when you enter in the corporate ladder, you need to understand this is the name of the game. It's not everything, oh, I give you 3 tasks, do this, and then you do a good job. There's always extra. There's always something unexpected. How do you handle those unexpected situations is more important, sometimes more important than you handle your assigned job. Okay, I'm done with my third module. Okay, so my comment is that the good manager should coach, make sound decision, and work as a bridge in communication and help the boss to move forward. I now get into, I'm really sorry, this is a much longer than I, maybe my bit rate in English is lower than my Mandarin Chinese. Oh, if people, I think people are welcome to drop out if time is an essence, but I can stay if you people have questions. I also show my next talk, which is about business sense for engineers. So in probably 3 or 4 weeks, we'll talk again. Yeah. But any questions for today's presentation?
Yes, Bernard. Norman in the audience raised a good question. Some managers have strong ego. They may not like the different opinions. How do you do your advice, taking a position in this scenario?
Excellent question. This is almost a planted question. Thank you, Norman. Okay, so so I'm painting a managerial style or a corporate style where a manager is encouraging everybody to take position. But the flip side, and I later on remember I mentioned a manager to be transparent, but these two are linked. Usually, a manager who is less transparent are more likely not like people to take position because they don't want people to hear other people's position so that he can take his decision, whatever way. Again, they are so the good advice from Norman's question is you do need to understand your situation, your manager's style or your company's situation, if he's not so transparent and you're taking a position maybe offensive, then probably you have to think twice. But the point of my communication is, what is the ideal style? But certainly not everybody can be in an ideal situation. But if you are, a manager, I strongly encourage you to create that atmosphere. I think that's my answer to a question. Hopefully it makes sense.
All right. We have another question. Some of the manager may be afraid to deal with critical issues. Some manager may be so-called political in their behavior. In this case, how would you advise the subordinate, even if they may be the first line manager to their senior management? How should they handle the situation this way?
This is too broad a question, but I think in a corporate, the most important thing you have to remember, the important guideline is what is the company's benefit? Because when you say a manager being political, or this is all adjective, if he is being political, he or she is being political for a reason beneficial to the company, then it's a good cause. So I cannot judge, or I cannot understand the situation by saying, oh, my manager is political. This I have no way of, but you need to see or understand the motive, right? So if there is a good cause, and that good cause will encourage you to invest, right? Again, let me talk a little bit about this investing in your manager. This is very subtle. I mean, a lot of time you have to go through it, or maybe being burned by it 1 or 2 times to really understand. Okay, so when I say invest, there are people, there are managers who take advantage of a subordinate and not pay back. There's a bad loan situation, and so there, first of all, you need to see whether there's a good cause. Second of all, you need to understand your manager is that type of person who is going to give you a bad loan, right? You did a lot, and then go extra miles, and at the end they say thank you very much. I move on, and this and that. It all happens. It all happens. There's a investment is no guarantee to pay back, but in a corporate situation, those subtle investment situation happening, and the promotion and whatnot often are determined by those investment results. Some may feel this is unfair, right? So hey, I've been paid to do this job, and then my everyday work or my assignment take my 80% of my energy, and I'm managing 20 people doing so. How come my 20% of the time helping my manager move forward and get something will, influence my promotion more than my 80%, job and this and that? It's not fair. It's not fair, but I'm just telling you it's happening, because it's harder to say your 80% contribution is much better than your colleagues 80% contribution. It's very hard. But there is a new initiative, and you are, influential in that new initiative, and the other person has not. And that's very, very clearly differentiated. So that's why it's not like by the number of hours. It's and you will not get to know there's an investment opportunity until you are close to your manager. Sorry, I may or may not answer the question. So maybe if not, please ask again.
Bernard, another Richard from the audience raised a question. I'd like to know more about your personal background. Even though I've done a very brief intro of your work experience. Richard, I'm not sure what specific information you're looking for. For example, Bernard's experience as a startup founder versus working a big enterprise company or anything. Can you share with us more specifically what you like to learn?
Can you unmute him?
Brian, can you help as the lead host?
Okay. Let me find
Richard Kuo.
Richard Kuo. Okay.
Let me stop sharing.
So Bernard, while we're communicating, getting to Richard, do you see the difference to be a manager in different environment, say a startup or a growth phase company or a large enterprise?
Absolutely, absolutely. My experience are more on the startup. I think if you are considering career growth, actually joining startup is one good way. So I often tell many people, when I recruit them to a startup, you should view startup this way. So startup have a stock option, right? So you actually normally should think the financial contribution from joining a startup is worse, right? That's how a better way to think about it. So you join the startup, all right? You say, oh, financially, I'm worse off. However, I have better career opportunities. So therefore, it's a trade-off, right? In other words, I lose financially, I gain in career or in terms of my position and whatnot. What if my startup made it financially sound? Then I win doubly. Then that's great. But I need to go in with an attitude that even if I do not so well financially, it's still a good trade-off. That's the perspective to go into. Otherwise, it's almost like gambling, right? I gamble financially. If I didn't win out, then I lose, right? That will be your life in a startup will be more miserable if you think that way. In other words, even if the financial return is not so great, you want to gain technically, right? So the flip side of the thing is this. A lot of the startup, when they recruit people, because they are pressed in time, they often want to find the right person who had done it before. They say, oh, you have done this before. Why don't you come to my company and do it again? That's the best for the startup, right? So it's a no risk. He goes doing it again. This is actually the opposite, right? Because if you do that, you don't gain career-wise. You actually are betting on this solely on the financial return of the startup. So that's what I will not recommend. When you go to the startup, you want to tell them that hey, I have done A, B, I have not done C. I think I can do C based on my experience with A and B. If you want me to do C, I will join. So this style you gain in career-wise, because your original company may not give you the opportunity to do C, and you gain that. And then obviously you don't want to go to the startup that for sure will fail, right? So you say financially, I don't know. If you win, then I win doubly, right? If you're not so good, again, technically, because my experience is more, or I got promoted to be a director. I didn't have that experience before and whatnot. That's my recommendation of how you go about joining a startup. Again, I'm sorry. I was waiting for Richard to ask a question.
Okay, I'll present the question from Sloan Xiao.
Okay.
Two good questions I see. Number one is that he worked already very hard, and the manager knew that and expecting a promotion here. But suddenly, the manager was replaced. The new one certainly didn't know much about the situation. How would you recommend Sloan to handle the situation to bring the new manager up to speed? Second issue, Sloan is already a manager and runs his department, of course. Now, he said his boss asked him to handle another department because of the issues within that particular department. But Sloan doesn't have much domain background and knowledge about the other department. How would you advise him handling this new request from the boss?
Okay, I will say to Sloan, I answered your second question first. The second question is a classical investment situation, right? So your boss asks of you about this situation because his or her boss is asking. In other words, there's a situation, right? There's a group obviously without a manager, or it's not managed well, and they are trickling down, right? And finally, your boss asks you, Sloan, say, hey, do you want to take that, right? So this opportunity, first of all, it's a congratulation, right? So, but you need to handle it well. Okay, so before I spend more time, again, in my church experience, we actually have something called the mentorship, right? So this kind of situation, the best is actually have a one-on-one, right? Meaning that I have a call or whatnot, because for quick conversation, sometimes I will miss. And CIE actually has a lot of talented, experienced guy. And so, I talk with Brian if CIE can create a mentor group, right? So maybe somehow we can provide more help to people understand your situation better and get you the best help. Now, my guess for Sloan's situation will be again just a guess. You obviously need to talk with your manager, right? So you're not knowing the domain knowledge is not a showstopper, right? The reason, think about this, you have to think about from your manager's perspective, right? In other words, he or she is looking to you because there's no other person. Imagine if you are a manager and then you have another sibling group, another manager, and if that manager's had a better background to handle the group, why will your boss go to you, right? It doesn't make sense, right? So it makes sense only the person or he or she feel that you can move in. So understand that perspective. At least make sure that this is not a fire that whoever jump will be consumed, right? So this is really an opportunity, right? So your lack of background itself is not a showstopper, because obviously this group needs to exist, and if there's no better person, right? So that's number one. Number two, again, just like an investment opportunity, right? So a lot of time when I talk about these things, people ask me, what if I stretch myself too thin and fail? What will happen? Usually, you worry about it, because the person who asks you to do the job usually want you to succeed. Because if you somehow manage and handle that group, he or she who made that assignment will also get some brownie point. Opposite is also true, right? If you fail in taking over, and your boss will say, "Hey, why you find slow? I mean, there's other person. Why you?" So he or she has a vested interest for you to succeed. Now, resource is definitely a problem, right? Just like not necessarily owning a new group. Like you say, I have a new assignment for you, right? You don't have a resource. You just need to stretch, right? And tell your boss that, hey, I'm stretching now, right? You need to find me help. I'm willing to take on, but I'm in a stretching mode. If you want me to stretch 2 months, I can barely survive. You want me to stretch 6 months, I will fail, and so will you. So you guys will be on the same boat. You are stretching. But then if you are not willing to stretch, nothing can be done. He cannot force you to stretch. That's other than that, I don't have anything. I may say something wrong, so I better stop here. Now, your first question was how to remind a manager of some promise early on. You just say it. What was being promised to you, but then the way you say it is not as if the company owed it to you, right? Like you say, this manager most likely already left, right? The company, and he gave you some verbal or personal promises, and you certainly can find a way to tell your manager that he's succeeding this job, and you say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, this is our relationship, and then this is being promised, and see what he has to say. And then usually he say, oh yeah, I'm sorry this happened, but then usually he's not going to honor that promise. But however, many things won't get done in one taking, but this definitely will give you something, right? So if you don't say it, you lose, right? If you say it just to register that, and then and not in a position to say, I force this new manager to honor and whatnot. You take the in-between position to articulate and at least make him understand that you did accomplish something that's worthwhile or meaningful for the previous manager, and also you are reasonable to bring this to his attention, and then not using a very forceful position to kind of give him a hard time. I think.
Great, Bernard. I think with the timing, we need to end before 9 p.m. California Daylight Saving Time. There's a good question how do you effectively do the interrupt? So you have no more than 2 minutes to answer this question.
Okay. So interrupt, not being interrupt, right? Interrupt. I teach you 1 or 2 tricks, right? First of all, you don't say excuse me. You never say excuse me. So when you want to interrupt other people, the key is the interrupt need to be one packet. You send it right away. It's not a protocol. What is it? Excuse me. Say, I want to interrupt me. Please allow me to interrupt you. Why would he allow you to interrupt? So you want to say it, whatever, but you say, I have a packet that is 5 minutes long. Sorry, you cannot interrupt. You need to somehow find a short message and boom, send it quickly. That's the key. But you cannot trying to get a protocol. There's no protocol. You need to get, the other thing is some people call it sugar coated. There's some sugar coat you can put in front. I give you 1 or 2 examples. I beg to differ, John. When you say I beg to differ, people already know you disagree. You excuse me. You maybe I want to go to the bathroom. People don't know what you excuse for. I beg to differ. This is everybody here. Less than 1 second. You interrupt. I beg to
I agree
differ.
with you, Bernard. So I have to interrupt you right now.
Okay. All right.
I think we will have a lot of questions, and we look forward to the next talk on April 20th. Brian, would you do the closing of this meeting for today?
Yes, thanks everybody joined today. I believe you are going to have a lot of questions, and I hope you enjoy tonight's conversation and the benefit. So as Bernard talked about, we think about why first beside how, right? So that's why we are going to have another section for next April 20, okay? And let me show my slide. Before I go there, I would like to present our appreciation certificate to Bernard. Okay, if everybody can see it.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is appreciation.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, it's a virtual certificate since we are doing the virtual. And so Wilson, if you're there, please take a picture for us. And we wish everybody enjoy today's presentation. Yeah. Okay, good.
But Bernard didn't share the video.
Oh, Bernard, can you share your video? We don't see you. Yeah, good. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody. And still remind you guys, we have a second section, which is on April 20. You can see it on the page here. And